Welcome back to the Bryan Devore Connection. I'm your host, Bryan Devore. When it comes to memory care, and if you're looking for a memory care community for a loved one, there's a lot to consider. And you want to be sure that you are looking at the very best communities that are out there. Well, there is no community better out there than Silverado Memory Care. And here to talk about Silverado Memory Care is my good friend, Rick Topete. Rick, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on your show, Bryan.
It's my pleasure. And obviously people can kind of tell by looking at the screen, we did not get dressed in the same home today, but we seem to have very similar socks. Very stylish. I appreciate that.
Wanted to look nice for the great event of being here today, sir.
Cool. So, Rick, you and I have been friends for a long time, and I've been wanting you to come and talk about Silverado because Silverado is very unique in their niche of memory care. So, tell us about Silverado. How did Silverado start? What's the philosophy behind Silverado?
Well, you know, to really talk about the history of Silverado, you really got to go back to the early 90s when specialized care was in its early infancy, I'm saying that right?
Yeah.
And other forms of dementia, and often lacked a focus on quality of care. And I think that really takes us to where Lauren Sherk, our president and CEO, and Steve Winter, two visionaries, came together with the same ideology. They had met at a conference a few years earlier, and really were what is possible in memory care to bring a concept that would bring children's families together, pets in one place, but to engage the residents so we could celebrate their abilities, not focus on the limitations. And I think that concept and mindset started in the early 90s when they came together with a mindset. But it also, what it did was it kind of catapulted them moving forward to launch Silverado, along with, God rest his soul, Jim Smith, to accept the challenge of what could be possible. And the first community, proud to say, was Escondido. We took our first resident in June of 1997, and of course just hit 26 years.
Wow, that's amazing.
And I'll say this to you, I'm going on 13 years. It fills my cup every day to see the life that goes on in the community. And I think for a lot of us, we think back, I remember back when I worked, when I was in my high school days doing volunteering, when the word convalescent, which is a bad word, a word that we don't use anymore, and I remember telling Father Scott, boy, I just feel so sad and I just want to go hug these people. And I see years later what has evolved and what Silverado has done. And I think it continues to evolve. You know, the Brain Healthy program started for several years. It was about engaging our residents, getting them active, getting them out there doing different things. If it's doing Tai Chi or yoga or things along those lines, these are the things that bring that value. And now, to fast forward, when I talk a little bit about one of our premier programs, Nexus, which is Greek for connection.
Yeah.
The program itself has evolved, and probably back, I want to say about 10 years ago, we reached out to Kim Buttram, who had headed up the Alzheimer clinical team over at UCSD, has a myriad of other accolades. We were blessed to bring her on board to take it to the next level. And when I give you the definition of Nexus, it's an internationally recognized evidence-based program, but it's the non-drug approach that allows us to improve that cognitive ability in our residents, that quality of life. And these different ways we do it through different pillars. We do it through physical exercise, Zumba, you know, ping pong, get them active, get them moving. Let's engage them. It goes through purposeful social activities. Oh, let's do different things. Over the course of this last few months, we made backpacks. We had our residents write little notes to new students, but they were excited as if they're writing those notes to their own children or grandchildren. I think about our support groups. Some of the things that stand out at Silverado, the resident support group, which is very unique in the industry. There's support groups for families, but an actual support group for the residents, which can decrease anxiety, but bring a sense of belonging to our residents together, which is facilitated by our social worker, which is another X factor of Silverado.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot to unpack.
Please.
And, you know, memory care has come a long way. And, you know, I remember, you know, talk about convalescent and, you know, and when someone was you know, getting dementia or Alzheimer's, it was like, okay, well, put them in a home. And that's what was sort of what we thought about. But it's come 180 degrees. And you talk about where people, you know, lives are enriched. You know, it's not just, you know, put them somewhere, but they're still vibrant, and there's still opportunities to help them, you know, prosper. And I'm sure the family loves to see this as well, because they want their loved ones cared for. So the services you provide are amazing. And you have two communities in San Diego.
Yes, we do. We have one in Encinas, beautiful community by the beach, and then the one that I reside in very proudly, Escondido, the flagship, if you will. Been there again. It's been there, well, gosh, 26 years. But we have national exposure of almost 27 communities throughout the country. But touching on your point, I think from the very first time I walked in the doors in 2011, I saw something special. Not only is it about the care, what the caregivers bring and how they do it, and our nursing staff, I can speak here and talk about the clinical model, the things that we do on that side to bring that warm, safe environment of an assisted living married with the medical model. But it's the love and compassion that you see every day. It's the little stories, and really, to your point, when you talk about what we bring, Nexus at its core is that resident. It's that piano teacher that gets to make music again. It's that artist that has an art exhibit that no one would ever think is a reality, but Silverado, we've done it, where they're able to showcase some of the artwork that they've done. It's that poet that's able to write poetry again.
Wow.
That now, even with dementia, but it's looking at things with different eyes. The other day I was at the community and we had our music playing, and I love to dance, and I grabbed one of the residents and we were swing dancing, and it was great looking around the room, everybody's clapping, having a good time, but it just reminds me of the why of what we all do. And I think for our residents, through the different pillars that we provide, it's meeting them where they're at, but not just looking at, okay, let's give them an activity, but what lights them up? Gardening club, planting flowers. We've got a quilting club that will make blankets for newborn babies that we'll take to the hospital. You just see this passion in their hearts. And I think it's interesting, Lauren always says, our president and CEO and a true visionary, he says the great side effect of Nexus is quality of life. And I think that is really what's fueled me over the years. And like I said, there's a lot of beautiful, wonderful communities out there. They do an amazing job. But the thing about it, I always say for families coming in, is when you come in, you get to feel that feeling. Because for me, if that was my mom, who's 91, I wouldn't hesitate to have her in this type of an environment. And I think when I look at everything full circle, how we do it every day, the engagement activities. In fact, not to segue, but I brought a little something for you to give to your wife. These were just made. Barbara, Connie, and the wonderful team of ladies make bracelets. And one of the things that they do for me that I get to take out to the communities. The other day, one of the residents, Barbara, how do they like them? Do they like what we make? I said, Barbara, they love them, and it warms my heart to be able to give them out.
That's amazing.
And I want to give this to
Well,
you.
thank you.
To give to your wife. But I always say with joy and harmony, it's engagement, but it's about the joy. And I'll say this to you, Brian. I think the biggest thing that I'd say about Silverado and what we do is it's not about prolonging life, but it's about improving the quality of life. To have a healthy brain while you have a healthy body. And I think that's the mindset we bring. Doing yoga on the beach, taking a drive to Bait Nets Farms, going to a Padre game. What Lauren and our team has done, Kim Buttram, who is always amazing, now our Senior Vice President of Clinical Services, her continued vision to make Nexus and Silverado at the next level, it's constantly, what can we do? What can we do to make it even better to support these families that are coming in trying to go, is this the right place for my mom or dad or my spouse? Having events, come in and dance with your spouse, come in and see mom and dad and see them in the music mode or whatever that activity might be. Men's club, a Sunday, watching a football game, playing word strategy games, doing different things that light them up.
It's amazing too, because I think people sometimes downplay how important it is to have a purpose. And creating bracelets, creating blankets, it's giving people purpose. And when they have purpose, I think their quality of life is better. They stay more engaged, and they're living a better life. We see it all the time, and that's what's happening at Silverado.
Yeah, you really hit the point. I think that's really the goal of us every day, is not just getting them out to doing activities, but finding that purpose. And I'll give you a quick story. We had a resident years ago, came in, animated spirit, wife was finding the right place for him. I asked him, well, tell me about your husband. What did he do? goes, well, he was a police officer for a few years, wonderful, serving our country. And then what did he do after that? She said, well, he became a national director of the FBI. I said, wow. I said, okay. So I got together with our team, and we got him a badge that said Director of Security. Hat said FBI. I go to him, I said, Richard, you are now going to be our Director of Security. Are you ready? And he lit up, and every afternoon about 2 o'clock, he goes, I got to go do my rounds, got to go do my rounds, 1800. And he would go around, everybody knew who he was, but it fulfilled him. It brought him that moment of joy, and he would be with us for the next few years in that quality. And these stories continue at Silverado. We have another resident that teaches Spanish at our Escondido community, and you know, the other day they're just like, ¿Cómo estás? Estoy muy bien, and different things. So it's marrying all the activities to engage them, which is going to embrace a better mood. It's going to increase cognitive abilities. All of these things all tie together, and the pillars, as I mentioned, they allow us to do that. So when you tie in the physical exercise or the stress reduction, or you tie in the support group, we're able to come together as one. They're able to share their thoughts and feelings. It's pretty special. And you know, Brian, I'll tell you, people ask me, wow, you've been with one company in this industry for a while. I said, humble heart. I've been here going on 13 years because of my team, my caregivers, my nurses, my visionaries that I work for, from Kim Buttrin to Lauren Shook to Steve Winter, to all that brought this forth. And I look forward to what's ahead in 2024 to continue our mission, to serve our families, to serve those in need when appropriate.
Yeah, it's quite amazing. And obviously you have a passion for it. And you know, Silverado's right there at the forefront with, you know, the Nexus program, you know, which is a fabulous program, you know, for, you know, high functioning, you know, opportunities, you know, for your residents. And you know, the nutrition is great. I've been in your communities, I've eaten the food, which is amazing, but I've met your residents and I've seen them engaged and doing activities. And I've met your staff, and a lot of them have been there for a very long time. That says something.
That's a really good point. When I look at the average staff member or caregiver, many of which have been with us 5 years, 12 years, 20 years, I have one of the engagement directors, Claudia, wonderful lady. I mean, they're all wonderful. And her and I started literally the same time. We were talking about it the other day. But there's something about Silverado where you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to retire here because I'm on this mission of passion. And I think you touched on something earlier. When you talk about families and dealing with challenges as caregiver burnout comes, because you're giving everything you have in your heart, the thing I always encourage, whether or not it's Silverado, certainly like it to be Silverado, or use this as a benchmark. Maybe we will be the right fit, amen, and we're here. Maybe we're not, but we're here to give you a path, a guidance, a resource to see what memory care can be, what expectations you have to walk out that door when you go, yeah, Mama's doing great, I feel good, or I love my wife and I can't wait to come back for dinner and then be a part of their music, dancing in the afternoon tomorrow, and just bringing that joy, because again, as I said, celebrating them is where we want to be, not focused on limitations. And I think losing 2 relatives to dementia and having a father who had early onset, he passed of congestive heart failure, but his memory was starting to go. I'm really sensitive to this. So for me, every day is a gift for me to do what I do.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and it's a pleasure knowing you and knowing Silverado. Your information's on screen for those of you who are watching on video. If you're listening as a podcast on Spotify or what have you, then it's in the caption. But Rick's phone number is there. You can learn more. The website is there to learn more about his Escondido community and all that Silverado has to offer. Rick, thank you very much for coming and sharing all that Silverado has to offer.
Thank you so much, Brian. It was an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, for sure.